You ever wonder what happens when the cameras stop rolling? When the fame, the money, and the power can't protect you anymore? Because that's where Diddy is right now. 50 months in federal prison, and this time, there's no entourage, no stage lights, just reality. When the judge announced his sentence, the world reacted instantly. Shock, disbelief, confusion. But according to former mob figure Michael Franzese, who knows the federal system better than most, Diddy's biggest challenge isn't the time, it's the environment. Franzese explained that once the gates close, reputation means nothing. Behind bars, people doing long sentences don't care who you are. Fame doesn't buy safety, and privilege doesn't buy peace.
Obviously, he's disappointed, although he really shouldn't be. I think, a 4-year sentence here with already credit for the year or so that he has in, I think he did very well with respect to all of the drama and all of the circumstance around this trial. There was a lot of bad stuff out there, and I'm not saying, I'm not passing judgment on that, but it just looked really bad. And he could have gotten up to 10 years or 11 years. So I think the judge, took everything into consideration. I think his family today made a very good plea for him, and I think he did very well. That's my opinion.
He also suggested that Diddy's high-profile status makes it unlikely he'll be placed in a cushy, minimum security camp, the so-called club fed that wealthy offenders often get. Instead, the Bureau of Prisons will probably assign him to a medium security facility where control is tighter and respect is earned, not given. Still, even in that setting, Franzese believes there's room for survival, and even self-reflection. He mentioned programs that can reduce sentence time, opportunities to keep busy, and the mental shift required to adjust to that world. No one escapes the system, he once said, but how you face it decides who you become when you get out.
So in your experience, like your own experience and other, inmates that you've seen go through it and then show back up at the, the cell block, how do they take this? Do they bury their head in the pillow and cry, or do they keep their head held high and just pack up their stuff and wait for their assigned new prison? Like, tell me everything.
Well, everybody's different. I'm sure he went back was somewhat disappointed, so he's probably, dwelling on that. Hey, it could have been differently. Maybe I should have gotten out.
In the courtroom, Judge Subramanian weighed years of scandal, relentless media coverage, and emotional pleas from Diddy's family. The outcome? Just over 4 years, a sentence many insiders saw as lenient, considering prosecutors pushed for nearly a decade. So, while Diddy prepares to trade designer suits for a prison uniform, one thing's certain: he's about to learn what real power feels like when you have none. You ever notice how money changes everything until it doesn't? Because in prison, cash can buy comfort, but not control. And Diddy's about to learn that difference firsthand. While his lawyers push to have him placed near his family, the truth is simple: it's not his choice. The Bureau of Prisons makes the final call, and while judges can recommend, the system rarely bends for celebrity requests. Still, Diddy's legal team is reportedly trying to secure a placement that's safer and more rehabilitative, something closer to home. Michael Franzese knows this world better than anyone. As a man who's lived through both minimum and medium security institutions, he explained that a prison camp can look deceptively calm. No fences, no barbed wire, just open grounds and a sense of trust. But that illusion breaks fast. One mistake, one transfer, and you're back behind locked doors where every move matters. According to Franzese, Diddy's fame won't guarantee him safety, but it might buy him leverage. Inmates often see a high-profile name as a golden ticket, someone who can open doors, create connections, or simply bring them attention.
The overriding factor there, I believe, is he's a guy with a lot of money. And I'll tell you, this happened to me when I went in there because of the profile I had, because of the way they wrote me up. I had everybody and their brother inmate trying to do a deal with me when I got out, a business deal. They need money. Because of the fact that he's a money guy, I think he's going to have more friends than he will enemies. And in a medium security, normally nobody's looking to shank you. When you get into the higher institutions, when people are doing, a ton of time and there's no way you can benefit them, then you got a little more problem. But in a medium security, I don't think he'll have an issue at all. I really don't. He can be too much of a benefit to inmates that are always looking for something. And he could be a golden ticket for some people, at least in their mind.
Still, life in a medium security facility is no walk in the park. Franzese described it as structured, tense, and brutally honest. a place where status means nothing and survival depends on respect. It's a world that strips away the celebrity image and forces raw introspection. For Diddy, those walls won't just test his patience, they'll test his identity, because behind the fame, behind the money, there's no entourage, no applause, and no hiding from who you really are. And while Diddy's team pleads for leniency, not everyone thinks he deserves it. Gene Deal, his former bodyguard, has been vocal, saying Diddy's sympathy is misplaced, and that his sentence is just the beginning of what he's owed. What happens when public hatred follows you behind bars? For Diddy, that question isn't theoretical, it's very real. After the verdict, some voices in the public reacted with open hostility. One former ally, once willing to die for him, publicly declared he felt no sympathy, saying that past betrayals left him unmoved by Diddy's display of emotion in court. That bitterness matters because anger in the streets often travels into prisons, and grudges don't expire at the cell door. Diddy's legal team formally asked Judge Subramanian to recommend placement at FCY Fort Dix, a large, low-security federal complex in southern New Jersey, pointing to the facility's drug treatment resources and proximity to family. Fort Dix offers the ARDAP residential drug program, a 9 to 12-month intensive course that can reduce a sentence by up to a year, a very tangible benefit for someone with several years to serve. But experts warn it's not that simple. Christopher Zukis, who wrote the Federal Prison Handbook and advises defendants on placement, describes Fort Dix as unpredictable. From the outside, it appears calm, but it has struggled with gang activity, contraband, and staffing problems. Those dynamics create real risks for any high-profile inmate. There's another dangerous wrinkle. Part of the prison population still idolizes figures like Tupac, and some of those inmates privately blame Diddy for events tied to the old East Coast-West Coast feuds. Whether those beliefs are accurate or not, perception matters in a prison yard. Even with money or favors, correctional staff who give preferential treatment risk losing their jobs if caught, so institutional protection is precarious. Put it all together, and the decision about Fort Dix is a balancing act. On paper, proximity to family and rehabilitation programs make it attractive. In practice, gang tensions, fan hostility, and institutional limits on protection turn placement into a gamble. For Diddy, it's another test, not of lawyers or headlines, but of whether influence and legal strategy can withstand the raw realities of life behind bars.
He's got to get ready. He'll spend a couple of weeks there until they designate him to a new facility. And he'll be a lot better off in prison than he is in the federal jail. You know, at least there you can move around and you got some freedom on the yard and things like that. You know, my thought is he'll collect himself, get himself together. You know, there are ways for him to improve himself. You know, they have the Bureau of Prisons now has a drug program. And if you're allowed to get into that drug program, you can knock as much as 18 months off your sentence. Now, I don't know if he'll qualify, if they'll allow him to go in, but he'll probably start to think about, okay, what can I do to reduce my time now? That's what everybody thinks when you get in there. Is there any way we can better ourselves? He's thinking about what facility they're going to send him to. I'm sure he spoke to his lawyers and he asked his lawyers to put in a facility that's close to his home, close to his family, a low or medium level. I don't think he'll get into a camp.
Can you though? Does your request actually count? I mean, I thought the feds just put you where it works for them. I didn't think you get a say in it.
Well, here's the thing. The judge, you could ask the judge to recommend. The Bureau of Prisons doesn't have to go along with the judge's recommendation, but it does help a little bit. They do try to sometimes satisfy the judge's request.
You ever notice how every time Diddy's name comes up, the past comes crawling back? Because for him, the ghosts of Tupac and Biggie never left, and inside a federal prison, those ghosts might finally catch up. Among both Pac and Biggie's loyal fans, old suspicions still burn. Some believe that comments from Keefe D, the man currently facing trial for Tupac's murder, point the finger straight at Diddy. Keefe D has claimed he acted on orders from Puffy, and now, as his February trial approaches, rumors are swirling that he's threatening to expose everything, a move that could drag Diddy's name even deeper into the fire. Still, not everyone is convinced. Legal experts say the case against Keefe D relies heavily on circumstantial evidence. No weapon, no direct proof, just stories passed from one man to another. To tie Diddy into that mess, prosecutors would need something tangible, evidence that connects money, motive, or conversation to the crime itself. So far, there's none, but even without proof, perception is powerful. And in prison, perception can be dangerous. Some inmates still idolize Tupac, and to them, the idea, even the rumor, that Diddy played a role in their hero's death is enough to turn resentment into risk. As one prison consultant put it, he might want Fort Dix for comfort, but even there, reputations have consequences. The Bureau of Prisons will make the final call on Diddy's placement. Low-security prisons, like Fort Dix, offer more freedom, more programs, and fewer barriers, but also more responsibility. Inmates have to control their behavior to keep their privileges. For someone with Diddy's fame and the cloud of controversy surrounding him, that freedom could be both a blessing and a curse, because behind those gates, nobody cares about celebrity beefs or platinum records. What matters is reputation, and whether the people around you think you deserve to walk the yard in peace. You ever notice how every empire looks unshakable, right up until the moment it cracks from within? For years, Diddy's world was built on dominance, power, control. He was the man who always had the upper hand, until the very people closest to him started telling a different story.
I mean, what this guy did is disgusting. I don't think there's a person alive, a man or a woman, especially women, who are not going to hate this guy. Whatever he did was completely disgusting. It's beyond criminal. I don't even know what it is. I look at it like he disgraced everybody. He disgraced the black race by being a black man. I know a lot of black people and they hate him for it because it painted a picture towards all of them. I think it's being followed all over the world. If he's not found guilty or he's cut free or he does a short amount of time, I mean, I could only imagine what the whole world would think. This is a disgusting country.
According to multiple reports and testimony from insiders, Diddy's relationship with Cassie Ventura wasn't just complicated. It was allegedly built on control and fear. Cassie, once seen as his muse and partner, became a central figure in a story that blurred the lines between luxury and manipulation. Sources claim she helped maintain the image, choosing appearances, managing situations, even playing along when things crossed boundaries. But behind the glamour, something darker was said to be happening. And eventually, she wanted out. When she tried to leave, everything reportedly spiraled. Some witnesses described the fallout as explosive, arguments, control, and a growing sense of danger. Others say Cassie knew too much, too many secrets, too many private details. Walking away wasn't just emotional, it was risky. Diddy can't afford to just let her go, one insider said. And maybe that's why her eventual silence spoke louder than any interview could. Fast forward to his sentencing hearing in Manhattan. Diddy appeared broken. As a video montage of his career played before the judge, he reportedly broke down in tears. In a trembling voice, he apologized directly to Cassie Ventura, calling his past actions shameful and sick, admitting he'd been stripped down to nothing. "I hate myself right now," he said. "I'm truly sorry for it all." But outside the courtroom, few were buying it. Many critics saw the apology as performative, a desperate attempt at damage control. After years of silence, they asked, was he truly sorry, or just sorry he got caught? The God recently said what many are thinking, that Cassie knows too much, and that Diddy's biggest fear isn't prison, but exposure. If she ever spoke publicly again, he implied, it could reshape everything we think we know about the mogul's empire. Meanwhile, legal experts continue to debate his future. Some argue that, with time served, Diddy could walk free in roughly 2 more years. CNN's Laura Coates even noted that the system might credit his earlier detention toward his total time. But others, including Judge Mathis, a former state judge familiar with sentencing patterns, believe the emotional testimony could push Judge Subramanian to impose a heavier final decision. And as the cameras fade and the applause of the past turns to silence, one truth remains clear. This isn't just a fall from grace. It's a reckoning. Every tear, every headline, every apology is a reminder that power can protect you for years, but it can't save you forever. When the Cassie footage aired on CNN, silence filled the courtroom. It wasn't evidence in the legal sense, but emotionally, It was devastating. The public didn't just see accusations, they saw a pattern. The kind of pattern that can't be defended with press releases or industry statements. For millions watching, that moment confirmed what whispers had suggested for years. Even though the trial itself wasn't about those allegations, the imagery lingered in every mind that entered that courtroom. You can't unsee something like that, and you can't unhear the testimonies that came afterward. Women recounting experiences of fear, control, and humiliation. Those accounts may not have been central to the charges, but they shaped the atmosphere in ways the defense couldn't control. Some commentators insisted the verdict was fair, noting this wasn't RICO, this wasn't some organized criminal empire, this was one man facing the consequences of his own excess. But others felt the sentence was far too lenient. They argued that if Diddy weren't a celebrity, the outcome might have been very different. He's been getting cooked in the court of public opinion, one analyst said. You can't ignore that. But the real turning point came when Assistant U.S. Attorney Christy Slavic addressed the judge directly. She accused Diddy of playing the victim while already preparing for his comeback. Reports showed that he had public appearances planned just days after sentencing. Slavic called it the height of arrogance and told the court, "Remorse doesn't come with a PR schedule." Her words reportedly hit hard. Legal commentators said Diddy's defense strategy, focused almost entirely on his legacy, achievements, and image, backfired spectacularly. Instead of showing contrition, it came off as deflection. 5 lawyers stood up for him, but only one even mentioned the victims. And when that lawyer argued that Cassie knew what she was getting into, the mood in the room changed. The defense didn't just lose credibility, they lost the room. Judge Subramanian's reaction was telling. People who were inside say his tone shifted, colder, sharper. He reminded the courtroom that sentencing isn't about brand management, it's about accountability. Observers noted that the judge looked visibly offended when the defense attempted to minimize the emotional toll on the victims. To him, this wasn't a story about a fallen mogul, it was about the people crushed beneath the weight of his power. Outside, the media exploded. Every major outlet ran with the story. Headlines like "Diddy breaks down in court," "Judge blasts tone-deaf defense," and "Remorse or reputation repair" flooded social feeds. Analysts debated whether the sentence would set a precedent for celebrity accountability, while others asked if the system had once again gone soft on fame. And as Diddy sat quietly in the courtroom that day, his eyes red, his posture sunken, the realization seemed to hit him. This time, there was no track, no stage, no spotlight bright enough to drown out the truth. For a man who built an empire on image, this was the ultimate irony. His image had finally turned against him. Because when perception becomes your currency and power your disguise, the truth is the one thing you can't afford. In the final moments of Diddy's sentencing, the lights dimmed and an 11-minute video began to play. A glossy, documentary-style film filled with charity clips, smiling faces, and moments of triumph. A reel meant to remind the world of who he once was. But inside that courtroom, it landed like a stone. For the prosecutors, that video was the perfect symbol of everything that had gone wrong. He built his empire on illusion, one attorney said. Even while those cameras rolled, crimes were being committed. What was meant as redemption came across as arrogance, a campaign ad disguised as repentance. Judge Subramanian reportedly watched in silence. Witnesses said his expression never changed, cold, detached, unreadable. When the lights came back on, the courtroom felt heavier. The judge then spoke, acknowledging Diddy's childhood trauma, his philanthropy, and his family's pleas for mercy. But his tone soon shifted. He reminded the room that remorse isn't proven through production value, it's proven through change. And Diddy's actions, even after his apologies, told a different story. Prosecutors had asked for 11 years. The defense begged for leniency. In the end, the judge split the difference, a sentence longer than the defense expected, but shorter than what the government demanded. For Diddy, it was both a relief and a reckoning. Now, his fate rests with the Bureau of Prisons. If his lawyers succeed, Fort Dix could become his new home, a low-security facility tucked away in southern New Jersey. There, among thousands of other inmates, the man once surrounded by entourages and flashing cameras will wake up to concrete floors and federal routines. No red carpets, no interviews, just early mornings, cafeteria meals, and the echo of everything he tried to control. And while the world debates whether his sentence was justice or mercy, another question lingers. What happens when he gets out? Some say he'll seek revenge. Others believe he'll disappear quietly, crushed beneath the weight of his own legacy. Gene Deal, his former bodyguard, says he's not afraid. "I've seen who he really is," he told reporters, "and I've already survived that world." To him, Diddy's fall wasn't fate, it was inevitable. And maybe that's the truth here. For a man who spent decades mastering power, image, and control, his final chapter ends where all illusions do, in silence. Because power can protect you for years, but it can't save you forever. So what do you think? Was this justice served, or just another powerful man escaping the system one last time? Drop your thoughts below, and let's see where the truth really lies.